Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Don't Watch Movies, featuring
Woo.
me, Corinne.
Oh, and me, Monze.
There we go.
I
And
thought you were going to say and, but you didn't. So I was like,
I
oh.
pointed at you.
Yeah, but I was too busy checking myself out.
You're just too busy mocking me
I'm
because
just
I
too
did that.
beautiful to
I know.
to
You're
not stare at myself. I got the light right over me, so I'm like,
the Caravaggio.
angels. Yeah. I gotta do my pose, my Caravaggio pose.
Okay. This week, after much deliberation, we're going to talk about the movie 2012.
Ooh.
Ooh. Uh, It is one of my disaster comfort movies that I watch almost every year, once a year, along with Day After Tomorrow. It's one of those two, but this year I watched both. Um, so, Monzi, why haven't you seen 2012?
I'm not. Sorry, something of like a. Anyway, I just am not into disaster movies. Big shocker there. Um, um, yeah, I'm not into disaster movies. I think I watched. This has nothing to do with 2012. I think I watched like Twister, like
Ooh, it's a
like
solid
20
one.
minutes of Twister when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and I was freaked out, and I was like, never again. And
The scene where the dad flies off on the door and you hear he dies is a little traumatic.
thanks, I didn't know that happened.
It was in the first 20 minutes.
I said I don't know if it was it was just probably 20 minutes. What checks, what section, what chunk, what bits and pieces. It could have been bits and pieces of different parts.
I see, I
And
see.
I've been, I think, on the Twister ride at Universal Studios.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
ride, though.
but I don't think that ride's around anymore.
No, it's not.
But yeah. So that is all the disaster movies sort of, I guess,
I see.
I've ever seen.
It's
I
tough
don't
stuff.
like I don't like being scared and unhappy, or I have a big imagination, so immediately I'm like, well, I live in the Midwest. I know I live in the city, but sometimes if you go to little suburbs, they'd be like, there was a tornado, and I'm like, oh no. That could have been me. I could have been the cow flying in the tornado. I do not like disaster movies, especially when it comes to things like weather or aliens or Maya, Mayan prophecies. So yeah, I've never seen 2012. It never really interested me. I know John Cusack's in it, and I do like John Cusack. But it's older John Cusack, so he sucks a little bit, but it's okay. He's my
Didn't
hometown boy. It's okay.
didn't you want to watch what was it? The Beach Boys one he was in?
Yeah, and I only wanted to watch it because John Cusack's in it. I never watched it. I'm probably never gonna watch
Oh,
it.
I was gonna say because he's much older in that one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay.
I think like anything past like, I was gonna say the 90s.
I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna
say
say
like
Anastasia.
2000 and like one or two.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I think it's like John Cusack just goes downhill. But that's okay because I still love him.
Mm-hmm.
I still love him. It doesn't matter. Even if he phones it in, I don't care.
Even if he just shows up for the paycheck, I don't care.
Yeah,
All right.
honestly.
Yeah, so I don't like being scared either.
I know, but you like
But
disaster movies, which is
I'm gonna
strange. Is it like cathartic to you? Like what is it? Like cuz to me it's like I already know the world is falling apart. Like I don't need to see buildings fall down and people get crushed. I don't need to see the weather act out. I don't need to see aliens destroy all of us. Like I don't like seeing property damage. I mean, I do like superhero movies, but that is like, well, that's something that's completely out of my control, like 100% unrealistic. But like disaster movies, I'm always like, but what if?
Mhm.
But what if someone did put 100 bombs in 100 buildings and
Oh
they
my
blew it up? I don't know if that is a premise for any movie, but if it is, you gotta pay me for that idea. If you're gonna write it.
I think there's a Criminal Minds
I'm not a
episode
big
about that.
fan of like knowing that, like I said, a twister or a tornado can just happen out of nowhere and then take up all your cows and your house and your family and you're dead. I don't like knowing that maybe some people 2,000 years ago came up with a prophecy that maybe everything was gonna die and it all sucks anyway. Like, I like knowing it in the back of my mind, but I don't like seeing it. It's too real when I see it.
All right. So to address your question, I'll preface with, again, I don't like being scared. I actually don't like alien disaster movies. I don't like alien disaster movies because
don't
I don't
you like, what is it, The Day After Tomorrow?
Yes, but that's not about aliens.
Or Independence Day.
I've never seen Independence Day. I tried watching Independence Day and I got scared. I stopped watching. I don't like alien disaster movies for two reasons.
They freak me out.
I don't like aliens because they're ugly.
Them aliens is too ugly.
It's too ugly. I don't want to see it. Like, I don't want to see it.
Maybe if aliens were hot, I'd be down, but they're not. They're little big green heads. Who do you think they are?
Literally, I don't like aliens because they're ugly. And they always like vaporize people, which I also don't like.
They always vaporize people. I am not down to be vaporized. That's where you draw the line. Ugliness and being vaporized.
Yeah, that's horrible. I don't
You're
like
just walking down the street and then poof, vaporized.
You know how horrifying that is? I hate that. Like, when people are getting vaporized in the 4th or 5th Transformers movie, I was like, oh, I'm not here for this. I was already not here for this because we're 2 hours in and it's not over. But, like, this is even worse. No, I don't like alien disaster movies in general. They're just gross. If they don't vaporize you, they're gonna kill you in some other, like, horrible way. I also don't really like creature disaster movies. Technically, Godzilla and Jurassic Park, some might consider disaster movies. I don't really like creature violence because it's like there's more potential for gore in creature violence. I don't really like that. I like animals, but they scare me. And
you fear nature. Good, like we all should.
I respect nature. I have a healthy,
Respect
but
and fear of nature.
I love property damage.
I love seeing a good building topple.
I do. Okay, sometimes I just get in this mood where I'm just like, I just want to see a bunch of shit get destroyed. And like, I need to see it in a safe environment so that I know I'm not in danger and I know that people are not actually in danger. It's a fake movie. It's good CGI. It's special effects. I just like, because I want to destroy something, so then I would like, sometimes you just like.
I need to take you to a rage room.
It's just, sometimes it just feels like you're like, I'm just so tense or whatever, like you want to crumple paper or whatever. Or I just like want to watch. I find it cathartic seeing massive property destruction on like a huge scale. And again, I don't like it when aliens do it. I don't really like it when animals do it. I don't like it when it's explosions, but I love it when it's an earthquake. I don't really like it when it's a twister. Like, Twister is a good disaster movie, but it stresses me out. I have never watched it again. I like the Twister ride. But the Twister movie, I don't like tornadoes. I think tornadoes are so scary. When I lived in Kansas, I was stressed the entire 2 years I was living there.
Any second, a twister is gonna show up.
Literally.
This is nothing but plains. There's no hills. There's no mountains. There's no bodies of water. Nothing but dust and dirt and corn.
I think tornadoes are so scary. I think that is the scariest one. Like, a hurricane is pretty bad too, but I think tornadoes are just really, really, I just find them very scary. So Twister, I watched, I liked it, but I also thought it was scary. So I just have not really revisited it. But like, I love a good earthquake movie. I think earthquakes are scary in real life, but I also think they're a little cool. Sometimes I watch like footage of real earthquakes. Like, I've seen the Northridge earthquake documentary. Cause like, there's like a morbid fascination about it. I'm like, this is so scary, and what would I even do in a situation like this? But I also want to
Mm-hmm.
see, like, it causes so much destruction. It's like, not that it's cool, but it's like, oh my god. And like, I like when you see the earth move, you get like a scale of how powerful it is, or like just the earth in general. It just feels, it makes me realize like
How
the
insignificant you
dynamics of the
are.
planet that we live on. It's, I don't know, it's just something like an earthquake or a tsunami, like a giant wave. It's like, holy shit, like that's, it's like a sense of awe that's like, I'm so scared right now, but this is like, it's insane that this can even happen, that kind of feeling. So it's like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
look away, and I feel like I enjoy watching that, not because I'm like a sadistic person that likes seeing people's actual livelihoods get destroyed, but
Well, now I'm
because
thinking
like
maybe you do.
in terms of like the real footage of it, but because it's just like, it's like, I don't know. Like sometimes people watch footage of people dying for some reason, or
What?
like that show Ways 100 Ways to Die or whatever. People watch that show. It was fictional, but people watch that, or
I've
they
never heard of
watch
this.
like the dash cam videos of like the car accidents.
I can't watch any of that stuff.
Sometimes I watch the car accident dash cams ones
Oh my
because I hope
god.
everyone gets out okay.
You
But
know
it's
how
just
you
like,
know people get out okay? If you don't watch it and you don't think about it and you're just like, everyone is okay always, all the time.
I like
Just
watching
lie
the
to
Russian
yourself
ones.
like
Sometimes
the
it's like a
rest of
horse
us.
just runs across the road, and like, or just like people drive like crazy. Like I would never. It's like, you pass by a car accident and there's like a 10 car pileup and you want to look. It's like that
I
kind of.
don't. I'm like this. I do
Maybe
not
you're
see.
different, but
I do not
hopefully
hear.
someone listening can like
I do not see. I do
relate.
not hear, but I will send you a prayer. Be safe. Be well.
But I don't know, just something about, because I also think about like, what would I do if I was in that situation? How
Mm-hmm.
would I escape this? So like, hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, those kind of footage I can like handle watching. Like I still like a lot I still feel like, oh my god, I can't believe this. Like what would I do? Like sometimes I'm like, oh my god, would I die if this happened? This is scary. I get scared. But it's also like, people study that stuff for a reason, and like the
Mm-hmm.
destructive power of it when you remove the human element is like pretty incredible, but then when you put
Yeah.
the human element, it's like, oh my god, this is so tragic, which adds another layer to the interest of like, oh my god. And then you find out how like the government doesn't do anything to help those people, and then you get angry. So there's like different layers.
So many
So
layers.
so with a disaster movie,
Like a
it's like,
butterfly.
it's fictional, it is all fake, and I just get to see like cool special effects. I get to see the world kind of destroy things on like a massive scale, and it is just, I find it really fun and cathartic to watch. It is literally, I always feel like watching Day After Tomorrow and or 2012 in December or January every single year. It's just my winter disaster comfort movie. I always watch it. Like I've literally watched it every single year. I just, sometimes if I don't feel like putting up through the whole movie because the stories are never very good, I'll just look up like the disaster scenes and I'll just like watch that. So, and then when I watch the movie, I try to imagine and strategize like, okay, if I'm here, how would I get out? What would I do? What do I need to do in case this actually happens in real life? I need to get a flying license. Spoiler alert, that's what I need to get. Or potentially like a kayak or a nuclear submarine. That's how I will get out of here alive.
A nuclear submarine. I'm glad we can just pick that up at the local car dealership.
Right? It's just like, sometimes when I watch those movies, I think about like, okay, if this happened, how did these people survive, and how will that determine my strategy for surviving? So that's also, it's mostly for the disaster porn, and also for like helping me think about what would I do if something like this happened, because
Okay.
they're so realistic. um yeah, and then the stories are usually so bad, so it gives me like something I can get angry about, which like I have to get angry about something at least once a month. Or in like a safe, controlled manner. It's just, I just enjoy watching those sorts of disaster movies. 2012, what do you think happens?
2012 years ago. The Mayans created their calendar, and they stopped at 2012 because they realized it was the end of the world. Flash forward 2012 year, no, 2011 years. Oh.
Oh.
A bunch of white people just living their life, doing their thing. It's New Year's Eve, and everyone's like, yeah, it's New Year's Eve. Yeah, 2012 is going to be the best year ever. I do not remember 2012. I don't remember if it was good or not, but whatever. Continuing on. And it's like, they're counting down, like, the ball is dropping on, like, New Year's Eve or whatever. And there's just one guy who's like, haha, did you hear that the Mayan calendar ends in 2012? I think maybe, like, the end of the world. And I was like, Josh, you're so funny. And like, oh my god, yeah, totally, the end of the world, you're right. And anyway, they, like, make out on New Year's Eve as the ball drops. None of these people are John Cusack. Okay, so then it's like, yeah, the end of the world, whatever. But as soon as it's 2012, they do like that Earth satellite thing where it's like beep, 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 and all this stuff is happening. I don't know. Maybe there's like an asteroid or something coming to Earth. And then I'm just making stuff up. And so then anyway, back in our beautiful suburbs of America, John Cusack and his family are just living their lives. And maybe the kid is like, hey, did you hear about that 2012 thing? The dad is, John Cusack is like, no, son, you're crazy. Anyway, all these little disasters start to happen. Like, maybe there's a hurricane, maybe there's, like, a twister, maybe there's, like, a tsunami. Like, all these little things are happening, and they start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's probably, like, a giant earthquake or something in the town where John Cusack's family is at, and so then we have to, like, follow John Cusack and his family as they try to survive. Oh, 2012! And then aliens come at the end. No. And it was the aliens the whole time. The aliens part isn't true, but that's what I think happens.
That's what you think happens. Okay. I think that's a good prediction. There's some things that are correct. There are some things that are unfortunately incorrect.
100% correct. I got 100% on this.
The vibe is pretty like 85% there. The general vibe of it. Although it sounds like you're describing the beginning of Independence Day with the New Year's ball dropping.
I've never seen Independence Day.
I've only seen the beginning, but I'm like, doesn't that happen in Independence Day?
I don't know.
It does remind me, though, that I also don't like asteroid disaster movies, and I don't like volcano disaster movies, because I don't like people melting. And I don't like people being vaporized.
I was going to say, you don't necessarily melt when you get hit by lava. Have you not heard about Pompeii?
Yeah, you either get No, like, if you fall into a volcano, you'll melt.
If you fall into I like how your idea of a volcano disaster movie is you fall into a volcano, not the volcano coming out after you.
It happens in the movie Volcano, which is set in Los Angeles, and I really want to watch it because I love when I recognize where the movie's at.
Places,
but someone falls into the magma underneath. Like, there's a volcano in the La Brea tar pits, and they fall into it. I haven't seen it yet, though, because I like saw parts of it on TV, and I was kind of scarred. And people get, like, boiled alive. I don't know if I want to watch that or not. So, and I don't like asteroids, because, again, vaporizing. Okay, well.
But they bring the ass. Hey! Okay. Continue.
Let me find a trailer for you to watch.
Link me. Link me. Link me.
I'm really excited to tell you about this movie. This movie is terrible, but I really like it. I'm gonna give you the shorter one.
The following preview has been approved for all audiences by the Motion Picture Association of America, Inc. Columbia. These flies? Uh-oh. Who's this guy? Is this an old Mayan guy? Well, a young Mayan guy? He's delivering the news. Oh no, he's like Tibetan.
I was gonna say,
what the hell does this have to do with 2012? Prepare 6 billion people for the end of the world? ? Uh-oh. Why is the ocean coming over the mountains of Tibet? I don't know. I think you need more than that little bell to warn people. They're dead already. Those guys in there are dead.
Dude, that's so cool.
They wouldn't. You can't prepare for the end of the world. You just die. 2012. Wait, that was it?
I guess that was the first. Okay, let's give you the second
Find out
trailer.
the truth.
That was
Google
like the
search
first
2012. I'm gonna go Google search. How about the 2000 trailer
number
two? So
number
many
two.
pictures.
Let's watch the number two one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ready?
Yeah. It's
Okay, go.
playing. The following preview. This came out in 2009. Should come out
Yeah.
2012. Mankind's earliest civilization warned us.
Here are your
One of.
Mayans.
Yeah, here we go. This day would come.
This mass suicide adhered to the Mayan calendar, which predicts the end of time to occur on the
Oh no, not giant Jesus!
this year.
Oh my god, the birds.
What are the odds?
Oh, I remember this
Thank you,
trailer.
John Cusack. Oh, it's that little kid. He grows up to be a bigger kid in movies I don't care about. Can you imagine just... Oh, that's awful. I hate all of this. That poor hot fireman. No! Not the Sistine Chapel! I don't care about Capitol Hill. Well, I guess I do. After yesterday, I do. Oh no. Black president, yeah! Don't look outside the window, we gotta be in the air until we run out of fuel. Everything is on fire. That city's falling into the ocean. I bet that's New York, isn't it?
He said that the
Huh?
government is building these ships.
The government? Giraffe.
So when do we let the people know? Aren't
We don't, she would tell EJ4.
continuity of our species. Wasn't it also decided that people have the right to fight for their lives?
Yes, they do. He's my hero. Sorry, John Cusack. What? That's so stupid. I love it. Was that the Eiffel Tower? No! I just listened to a podcast about the Eiffel Tower. Oh, all the people in that plane are dead, or they should be dead. That poor Tibetan monk. That falling is okay. Okay. Are they making out in the water? If you're dying, now it's not the time for romance. Or is it? Yeah, get wrecked. America, John F. Kennedy coming for your ass.
How could you hate this? How could you hate it?
2012. This November, find out the truth. I'm gonna go search 2012. Google search 2012. Well, the first search is the movie. Is 2012 a true story? The movie 2012 had an excellent box office of 760. I don't know why I said that weird. 769.7 million in the United States. The movie was based on the ancient Mayan phenomenon that December 21st, 2012 on their calendar is the end of the world. The planet would be destroyed because of solar flares and killed all the people on Earth. So yes, it's a true story. Does everyone die in 2012 movie?
Monze, I have to tell you this. You're looking up spoilers.
Did Tamara die? Is 2012 unrealistic? In the movie 2012, it is. Don't get me wrong, the movie wasn't entirely all unrealistic, just the character plot was. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Do you want to revise any of what you think happens based on the two trailers we saw?
All right. So, 2012 years ago, the Mayans were like, ooh, the end of the world, 2012. Okay, flash forward 2012 years. We're not going to 2011 years, 2012 years. Big changes. John Cusack and his family are going on a nice little road trip or whatever. And then that's when the end of the world happens. And the rest of the world is like, hey, all these Mayans, all these non-ancient Mayans, they're now people now in Mayans, have all killed themselves because the calendar said that they were all going to die. So they did that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it looks like either the U.S. government or all the governments have come up with like some weird program to like build. I'm assuming like an ark because I saw the giraffe, like their own
Mm-hmm.
little Noah's Ark, and they're trying to get all these survivors on there. But of course, it's almost impossible to get all the survivors on these arcs or
Mm-hmm.
the ark or whatever because all these disasters are happening. So even as they try to get there, like on the plane or whatever, like right, like whole cities are falling over. But if you built the ark, where are you gonna put the ark in the ocean? Are you sending it to space? Anyway, oh my god, did they go to space? No, no, don't tell me anything. I'm so bad. It's so stupid. But
You're
yeah,
so
I think
invested. I love
it's
it.
all right. Yeah, all right. So that's what I think happens. Um,
Okay.
Also, maybe John Cusack is like divorced from his wife, and so there's like that whole ex-wife thing. So it's like him with his kids, and they're like, "What about our mom?" So they have to go back for the mom, and they bring the mom, and the mom is like, we're so divorced." And but through the whole thing, they're like, "But maybe we can fall in love again because the world is ending or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe
Okay.
she just wants to go to like Bone Town. Is that a phrase? Is that what you sexual beings say?
Bone Town.
Bone Town?
I think that's a phrase.
Bone Zone? Pound Town! I was thinking of Pound Town.
I was like, Bone Town doesn't sound right, but it doesn't sound not right.
Wrong
So I'm just
either.
gonna say yes.
Before the end of
Bone
the
Zone
world.
is fun though. I'm gonna start saying that now.
The Bone Zone?
Take me to the
I've
Bone
heard
Zone.
I've heard Bone Zone. I don't know from where, but I've heard it before.
I've heard
That's why it
Bozo.
not Bozo, Bone Zone. Bone
Zone.
Yeah. And in the end, they all make it. Like, maybe they thought the kids were gonna die, but one of the kids got, like, trapped under, like, rock or rubble or something, and they're like, Dad! And he's like, no, I'm not gonna leave you, but Dad, you gotta... No, son! No! I'm not leaving you behind! And then he saves him, and then it looks like maybe he's gonna be trapped or die or whatever. Except some stupid, like... Oh, I was gonna say stupid, but Chiwetel Ejiofor, like, comes around and he's like, I've got you! And he saves John Cusack, and they all make it on the ark. If Chiwetel Ejiofor dies, I'm gonna be mad. Alright.
Okay. You ready to find out if he dies or not?
Oh my god, he dies. He dies!
So, I'm gonna try to tell this from my memory, but I have the plot just in case. Okay.
Okay.
So,
I should have made popcorn.
just for the details. So, unfortunately, we do not have the Mayans 2012 years ago.
2012 years ago.
We don't have that. Instead, this movie was made in 2009. We start in 2009.
Lame.
So, we start in 2009, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, his character, who does he play? What's this guy's name? Adrian Helmsley. He's like a geologist.
Okay.
He visits India. Okay, so first of all, here's another reason why I love this movie. It is a comedy. So, it's not intending to be a comedy, but it is. Because who's directing it? Roland Emmerich. And Roland Emmerich is what? The king of subtlety, and I mean that sarcastically. It is fantastic. The movie opens up. He is in India, and it's like raining. And he's like in the cab. And then there's like this shot
Is he
of like
dancing in the cab?
No,
Why
no,
did
no,
you
no.
do that?
He's just in the cab.
He's in the cab.
He's in the cab talking. It's like, hey, so like there's like this kid, the kid of the Indian geologist that he's visiting, or I think that he's like a physicist, astrophysicist that he's visiting.
Okay.
Yeah, he visits this astrophysicist, his friend in India, and the astrophysicist's son is like playing with a toy boat, and it's raining, and when
and
the
he does
cab,
like the thing.
yeah, when the cab like drives by, the boat is like in the water, and then it topples over, it capsizes. I'm like, wow, the foreshadowing. Oh my god, it's really funny when it on the repeat viewing of it. So it's like, oh no, this boat capsized. I wonder if that will happen later. So then Adrian's like, it's like just talking to him, just like really basic screenwriting stuff. And then they like go they go to like this underground kind of lab sort of thing, and
Okay.
it's near this mine which is supposed to be like the one of the deepest mines in the world. And so it goes down really really deep, but it's just so hot, and they're like, why is it so hot, blah blah blah. Like they have to bring like ice or whatever to like keep themselves cool and everything. And the astrophysicist shows him, he's like, yeah, these it's never been this, like sometimes it gets even hotter than this, like we have to keep everything cool down here, our computer's cool like this, it's never been this hot before, it's just it just keeps going higher and higher. um and he shows him this well which goes even further down, close even further down the earth's crust. And the when they open the thing, the water in the well is like boiling. So it's like, oh my god,
Mm.
why is it doing this? What is the answer, you ask? Neutrinos from a solar flare are basically microwaving the earth, so it's heating up the core of the earth, and because the core gets hotter and hotter, it destabilizes the crust. So like things are gonna like the whole it's basically like microwaving the earth, so the top part starts crusting over and whatever. There's a theory for it. I'm trying to figure out what it Earth crust displacement. That's like this hypothesis. Um which it basically suggests that if the mantle and everything that like is in the middle of the earth starts like liquefying, that the stuff on top is just going to start floating around and is going to cause these huge problems for everybody, and like the poles will shift and whatever. So Helmsley goes to Washington D.C. and he meets the chief of staff Carl Anheuser, which is that like bulldog looking white guy. And he's like, I have something I need to tell you right now. And he's like at a charity event, so he has to like borrow like these clothes to show up. And he pulls the whole like, I didn't fly all the way from India just for you to ignore me. You need to talk to me right now. It's important. And the guy's like, okay, geesh, fine. Well, let's talk. Like, so then they talk, and the guy reads it, and he's like, holy shit, yeah, who do you work for? And he's like, oh, I said, well, you work for us now. You work for the president. So they know
You work for
now.
the president now.
Yeah, so now they know like the earth is probably going to go through these irreversible changes that is going to cause
Oh,
devastating
they need
loss of
time
life.
to build the arcs, which is why it starts in 2009. Okay.
Yes. So now the US government knows, and the US government calls like in 2010 the president calls the other world leaders and tells them like, "Hey, we've been researching this. We found out about what's going on, the neutrinos. Humanity is going to like be super super challenged. We need to work on this big project, and it is the arcs." So they everybody agrees to do this secret project of building these ships, and they're working on the timeline that Helmsley has like given them, and they're researching it. They have like a projected. We think it's going to take this amount of time, and it should be enough to build 9 arcs, which is capable of carrying 100,000 people. So they're going to try to save almost a billion people, which is still like not a lot of people, but they're like, there's
Yeah.
just no possible way we can
Yeah.
completely avoid loss of life. So we're going to save as many people as we can. So we're at least like 1 out of 6 we're going to be able to save. So they start doing this, and then so they have like this meeting, and then we cut to this kind of like remote mountain area in China, and you see like the Chinese government is telling everybody like, you have to move, you have to move, if you can't work you need to leave, we're going to take you somewhere else. We're working on like they tell them that they're making like a dam or something, so that's why they're evacuating them.
Okay.
And then like the monk, there's like a guy who's a monk named Tenzin, and he has a brother, and they're escorting like their grandparents. So the grandparents are like, where are we going, why are they making us leave? And he's like, I don't know. So the monk is leaving with them, but his brother is there. His brother knows how to weld, and the brother's like, I'm gonna come find you like later. And they're asking like everybody like, who knows how to work, who knows how to do this, who knows how to whatever. And the guy's like, well, I know how to weld. So they're like looking for people to work on this dam project, but actually it is the arc project is being done in China. um so Oh no, Nima is the monk, and the brother's name is Tenzin. So then you also see a scene where this like business guy goes to like this like Arabian prince, and he's like telling him about what's going on, and is like, you can buy tickets for this thing. And the guy is like, well, I have a big family, and $1 billion is a lot of money. And the guy's like, well, it's $1 billion per seat. So it's like, if you want to save yourself, you can buy tickets for $1 billion. And they're like presumably going to a bunch of rich people selling
Yeah. Of
tickets.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, under the table selling tickets for $1 billion each to guarantee spots here. And then in 2011, you see like they're in the Louvre and they swap out the Mona Lisa, and we see Thandie Newton and her boss, and they're kind of talking in French with each other about like, oh, no one will know that it's like the fake, but the real one. They think, because they kind of know what's going on, but they think, because she's the first daughter. She's you realize later she's the president's daughter, so she knows the world is kind of like sort of ending or whatever, but they don't know the specifics of it. So they think they're keeping her for safekeeping. They're like, we're hiding the paintings for safekeeping just in case, of whatever. So they're kind of in on it, but they don't know the whole story. Now we skip to 2012, and like during this whole thing, they have like a date and the date and the date and 2012. So now we're in California, Manhattan Beach, California. John Cusack is Jackson Curtis, and he's like kind of a failed science fiction author. He still has a bunch of unsold books in his house. And like he wakes up and he's like, shit, which I love when that's the first thing a character says. He's like, I have to go like pick up my kids. They have like a camping trip that they're supposed to be doing. So he like runs off to go get them, but like the car won't really start, so he has to like use the limo because he's a limo driver. That's like his actual job. So he has to go pick up his kids to go on this camping trip because his ex-wife is estranged. Yep, ex-wife. She's like dating. They live in like, where do they live? I think they live in I want to say they live in like Brentwood. They live in like somewhere in West LA, not Manhattan Beach, but like Brentwood, Westwood, that kind of area near UCLA. That's where they live. I've spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out where they are in Los Angeles and where things are happening. But anyways, so they're like there. He goes to pick them up. They're like in the nice suburby area of LA. I'm like, these houses are all worth $1 million, but okay, go off. Her like new husband, Gordon, bonds better with the son than John Cusack does. The daughter is younger, and she like wears these hats to make her feel safe, and she still wets the bed because problems. And like the boy is like doesn't really want to go, and he's kind of surly, whatever. He likes Gordon a lot more. Gordon is like a plastic surgeon.
That's why they can afford $1 million house.
That's how they can afford the house. So they go off, and they go on their camping trip to Yellowstone. And the mom tells her ex-husband, like, be present, don't be on your computer the whole time. They've been really looking forward to this, So it's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I know. So they drive off to Yellowstone, and then while they go there, they kind of hear on the radio some kind of like conspiracy theory stuff. And like we've already seen some footage of like the Mayans, this mass suicide, whatever, like kind of setting the tone for that. And they hear on the news Woody Harrelson, who plays this kind of conspiracy theorist or whatever. He's like, yo, this is what's going on. Like there's this and that. He's like connecting the dots, blah, 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 all this stuff. So they go to Yellowstone, and he tries to like take them to like this lake, but the lake is gone. He's like, well, your mother and I used to go here all the time, but it's just totally gone. And it's just like it's like kind of boarded off by the military, and there's these dead animals, and they're like, oh, it smells, what's going on? The military like sees them, and then like Woody Harrelson's like in the woods like watching them and just being weird and eating like a pickle. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I know. The military comes get them. They're like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, we'll escort you off. And then John Cusack's like, what's going on here? Like,
I'm John Cusack.
What's going on? Why is there tape over here? Blah, 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 blah. And then, like, you see the geologist is there, and he's like, oh, let me go talk to the civilians, because they're doing research there. And then the geologist is like, he's like, oh, I'll escort you, but he somehow sees the ID of the guy, and he's like, wait, you're Jackson Curtis, the Jackson Curtis. I read your
The
book.
Jackson Curtis. Only one of you failed. I hear you drive limos for a living now.
He doesn't know all that, but he's like, oh, I read your book. I really liked your book. And he says some bullshit about, like, do you really think that, like, humanity will come together and help us out in the end of the world? And he's like, yeah, because otherwise, what then we're not human. And, like, some bullshit dialogue. I'm like, all right, whatever. So then they have, like, this
that
moment.
becomes important in the end, Corinne.
It becomes important in the
everyone
end.
is trying to save everyone.
Yeah. So they're, like, they have, like, this cool moment, and then they leave. But then John Cusack keeps thinking about, like, what's going on, and he tunes into the radio show, but then he realizes that the host of the radio show is in the campgrounds in the RV right across from him. Woody Harrelson is here in Yellowstone National Park. So he goes over and he, like, knocks on the door and starts talking to him, and Woody Harrelson's like, yo, there's, like, there's a whole conspiracy, man. The world is literally ending. And John Cusack's like, well, wouldn't they tell us if that was the case? He's like, no, because there would be mass panic, but they're building something. They're building, like, spaceships or something that, like, people are going to be on. And like, John Cusack's like, okay, like, whatever, like, yeah, I'll buy some tickets. And Woody's like, no, like, it's not for you and me. It's like only the richest of the rich people can get on here. Like, it's not for people like us. We're all gonna die. It's this whole conspiracy. And he pulls down this map showing different people who have, like, died under mysterious circumstances, who were trying to whistleblow. And then John Cusack's like, wait, I know this guy. He helped me with my Earth displacement theory when I was doing research for my book, because his book kind of goes into that. He's like, this guy helped me with this. And he's like, yeah, but, like, he's dead now. It's kind of weird, huh? And then, like, before this scene happens, the museum director, he, like, calls the president's daughter, and he's like, they lied to us. She's not in the mountain. She's going somewhere. Like, the painting is going somewhere else. They stole all of it. It's not in the mountains like what we thought. There's, like, this whole thing, but she's having a hard time hearing him, and there's, like, this other car, like, kind of behind him, and he, like, goes into this tunnel, and she's like, I can't hear you. Like, what are you saying? And he's, like, trying to talk to her, but then his car blows up and he dies in, like, the same tunnel that Princess Diana died in, apparently. So then
that's a conspiracy, man.
So, like, he kind of is.
Di knew. She knew about 2012.
Right. So then, and also that night, while this is happening, the ex-wife and her husband are grocery shopping at, like, a Vons or an Albertson or wherever in Westwood. And the plastic surgeon guy is like, you always get weird whenever your ex-husband gets around. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I want to make a baby. And she's like, we can't make a baby in the grocery store. He's like, but I want a family. And she's like, and he's like, I feel like there's just something between us. I'm like, this is why the movies are hilarious, because Roland Emmerich does not know subtlety. When he says, I just feel like there's something, like, while they're having this conversation, like, there's this big crack coming towards them. Like, you see, like, one of the shopping carts kind of, like, roll over in the parking lot, and then, like, one of the car alarms go off, and this crack is moving towards the grocery store. And then, like, some lady looks, and her shopping cart's rolling, and a can rolls, and the crack is moving across, like, the floor. And they're, like, holding hands, and he's like, I just feel like there's something coming between us. And the crack comes in between them, and the store, like, there's a giant earthquake that happens, and they both have to let go and hold on to a pole on the other side. They're like, hold on, don't let go. And the crack just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So the earth literally pulls them apart. Like, yes, there is something between you, metaphorical and literal. There's an earthquake, and it just destroyed your entire grocery store. I'm like, this is so cheesy, but okay. So the next day, they're trying to get, like, mosquito bite ointment or whatever, and because they forgot to get that, and they're supposed to go hiking, but they see footage of the giant earthquake, and the boy's like, oh, hey, that's our grocery store. That's my English teacher on TV talking right now. And then he gets, like, a phone call from his mom, and he's like, Mom wants us home, like, right now. Which, to me, I'm like, if there's an earthquake right where you were living, and your kids are in a place where there is no earthquake, why would you want your kids to come to...
I want all my children to be in danger. I want to throw them into the hole that the earthquake made.
Right.
Because the thing between us is actually my other children. We can't have a family until it's just us, because my children aren't your family, sir.
Oh my goodness.
To throw you into this chasm. Chasm?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
The hole. So anyway, so now they have to cut their trip short. So they have to drive back. And I think right before they leave, Let me see. They Woody Harrelson kind of mentions that like if you like it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Like he keeps telling him, he's like you need to get away from here, you need to get far away from Yellowstone, you need to get away from California, you just need to go because like you just need to escape while you still can because things are about to get really ugly. And he's like, okay, like I guess whatever. And like Jackson had also sees like there's like a video that explains the Earth displacement theory that Woody Harrelson made, which kind of like goes into the whole like what I explained at the beginning. So he drives them home, and while he's driving them home, because that earthquake was so huge, they're like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on here? And the geologist gets like a phone call or whatever from the Indian guy, and is like, yo, like things are going way
Escalating.
too escalating. Yes, way faster than we thought it was. Like the schedule is wrong, things are going, it's worse than we thought. And now they thought they still had like a few years, but now they only have like 3 days. It's like hugely like, what the hell, like this was your schedule, you told us that it was going to be this, and like now you're telling us that it's wrong. And he's like, yeah, I was wrong, I'm sorry, but like it's just not working. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Geology, not rocket science.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Things are escalating. There's that giant earthquake. There's like all this shit is happening. Like shit's happening basically. So they're like, okay. And the geologist tells the Indian guy like, look, I'm gonna call for an escort to come get you. That way you and your family will be safe. You need to evacuate and get out right now. And then this guy's like, thank you. Like we're gonna leave. So. And then they're also telling the president this, like we have to start evacuating now. And the president is like, okay. And so he like all the people who bought tickets, they start getting the evacuation order, like the kind of thing. There's like this big Russian guy who goes to like this underground boxing match, and he's like, Yuri, my son, I killed a man, blah, 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 whatever. And he's like hyping him up for the boxing. And he's like, okay, you came, I can't believe you came. He's like, yeah, I came. And he has like this hot girlfriend with like a dog, and she's like, ah. And then so the guy is like standing there watching, but then he gets like the text message on his phone flashing, and so he leaves, and like the boxer sees him leave and he gets knocked out, and then the girlfriend like follows after him. She's like, Yuri, and then they like go. So then this guy calls Jackson to be like, I need you, get limo, pick up my kids, drive to airport, okay, good, yes, very good. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing that. So he drops the kids off, he gets in a limo, he goes to get the kids. They're like these two Russian twins, basically, in this big, beautiful house, in what I presume is Beverly Hills. And he's late, and they're like, Jackson, you're late, blah, 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 like, be careful, stop dropping things on me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like throwing shit into the car, and he's like, we just need to go, like, I don't care. And they're like, whatever, you're horrible. And then he finally drives them to the airport, and I think he like accidentally drops something on their toe again. They're like, ah. And then one of the kids shouts when they're boarding like this private plane, like this small plane, like, you might laugh at us, because he calls them like bastards, and they overhear. It's like, you might laugh, but we have the last joke, because we are going to go on a ship, and we are going to live, and you are going to die. So they tell him this, and he's like, oh, like these kids wouldn't just pull this out of their ass out of nothing. And he thinks about what Woody Harrelson was saying, and he was like, oh my god, like,
wait, they're all on a plane?
They go into like a tiny plane. They go to like Santa Monica Airport, which is like a smaller airport, to go onto a private, like a little itty bitty little private plane.
Okay, yeah, I get the Russians.
Yeah.
How did John Cusack get there?
He drove to the airport. Nothing has happened yet, so he just drove to the airport to drop them off. Because
okay. He's dropping the kids off at the airport so they can go to LAX to go to the family or whatever.
So they can go somewhere to go get onto like the big plane. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, how did they get on? Okay.
Yeah, he drives them to like this little airport. They got on there, and he's like, oh, and then when he's thinking about this, an earthquake happens.
Of course.
So he's like, oh my god. And so it happens, and then it kind of like stops, and he's like, "All right, like we need." I think it was like a tremor or whatever. He just starts thinking like, "Oh my god, we need to get out now. Like these kids are telling me they're going on a big ship. That's exactly what the other guy said. It's corroborating. Shit's about to go down. There's a giant earthquake yesterday. We need to go." So he tells the airplane attendant there, because there's a guy there. He's like, "Hey, can you fly a plane?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I can fly a plane." And he's like, "Okay, well, like, I need you to fly a plane for me later. I'm gonna grab my family and come back. For now, I'll give you my watch. It's a nice watch. Like my publisher gave it to me. Like just I'll pay you with this for now, but I'm gonna come back and then we'll fly the plane." The guy's like, "Okay, sure, whatever." So
That guy's super chill.
yeah,
Okay.
and then John Cusack starts driving like as fast as he can over back all the way back to Westwood or whatever, and his family's just like having breakfast or having pancakes. He's calling them, and he's like, "You need to get out of the house now. I am coming over. I have a plane. Like we need to leave Los Angeles like right now." And the lady's like, "What are you talking about? We're having pancakes. They have karate. We're doing our regular thing." He's like, "No, you need to leave right now." And she's like, "You sound crazy. Like whatever. Like I'm not gonna deal with this." Arnold
This is why we got
Schwarzenegger.
divorced, John Cusack.
Literally, Arnold Schwarzenegger's on TV and he's talking about the earthquake that happened like the last night, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I think the worst has happened. Like we should be fine. It's okay, blah blah blah." But then like right when he finishes talking, the earthquake
Another
happens.
earthquake.
Yeah, this is
Oh
the
no,
the
earthquake.
big earthquake. So like it looks like he's kind of like hit or whatever on the TV. The earthquake's happening. They go under the table. John Cusack finally pulls up, and he's like outside, and he's like yelling at them to come to the car. He like comes to the house, and he's like, "You need to go. We need to go." They're like, "No, I think we're gonna stay here." He's like, "Get out." It's a PG-13 movie. He drops the F word. He's like, "Get out of the fucking house right now." So they finally leave. They get into the car, and there's like the house like caves in right after they get out of the house. They get into the car. They can't even like close the car door because like there's a giant crack already behind them. So he's just going. So he's got the whole family and the new husband in the car, and they're just driving. And John Cusack is just pedal to the metal, just GTA, just driving as fast as he can while LA literally just breaks. And it is one of my favorite scenes because the seat, like it's I just like the destruction that happens. It's just well done. Like there's a lot of really sad stuff like this, like old. They get like stuck behind this old lady's car, and it's like these two like old ladies are driving, and he's like stuck, and like, "Oh my god, we're gonna fall into the sinkhole that's coming towards us." So he manages to get onto the other side, but then something happens where like the road like pops up, and then the ladies like crash into it, and it's sad. But then they just like LA just breaks around them. Like at one point Gordon is like, "Take the freeway, it'll be faster to get to Santa Monica." And the freeway is just falling apart, and cars are falling off the freeway. It's broken. The giant like donut thing is like rolling around. People are running around everywhere. And so they finally get to Santa Monica Airport, but the guy who flies the planes is dead. He's just on the ground. He's wearing the watch. He's dead. So like, "Oh my god, we need a pilot. We don't like that was our pilot. We don't have a pilot." And then the wife is like, "Oh, Gordon knows how to fly." And Gordon's like, "I've had 2 lessons. I don't know how to fly." And they're like, "Well, now you're gonna fly us." And Gordon's like, "Oh, I don't know how to fly." So well, you have to. So they get into the plane, um, and they manage to take off, and they fly off, and now but then now the plane isn't high enough to like to avoid the skyscrapers. So they're like flying through basically like downtown LA, and like the buildings are falling over. At one point the earth is just like rising up, and they're flying at like the level like where the new underground used to be. That's where you see like the train, like the red line just like comes out and just poof, and like people are falling. People in the offices are falling out of their offices. Everything's
This.
everything's breaking.
I hate this.
It's great. And then
It's not great. I have great fear of falling off of someplace tall or something tall falling on me, which is why I don't like disaster movies.
yeah, it honestly like the sound design is really effective. There's no music. It's just everything that's happening. So it feels very, very real. And even though it is like one of my favorite scenes, when I watch it, I still feel really uncomfortable because it's just so stressful. It's like there's no music. It's just literally what you would hear if you were going through that. It's just screaming and cars honking and crashing and braking and just everything. And they finally escape. They're up in the sky. They're safe. And I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, well, if I'm in the valley, I'd be okay because this is all like southern, like West LA and like downtown LA. Maybe I'd be okay if I'm up in the mountains. No, LA sinks into the ocean. So
Good,
I'm
let's get
like,
rid of it. We don't need it.
so I'm like, all right, doesn't matter where, like literally, like just Southern California just sinks into the ocean. It's just like up and then just sinks. So I'm like, oh, so I'm just fucked no matter where. I just need to not be in California. So they they fly to because it's just a tiny plane. So they fly to Yellowstone to get um to get fuel. And John Cusack is this is like one of my least favorite scenes. He's like, I need to get. We don't know where the boats are, where the ships are, but I know a guy who probably has the maps. And I'm like, why didn't you just grab a map originally, even if you didn't believe him? Like, why now you have to go back to Yellowstone to go get a map, and Yellowstone's about to blow. So he goes into the car with his daughter in the RV because like the RV's there, but Woody Harrelson isn't in the RV. And instead of just searching through the RV to try to find maps, they're like, we're gonna go find him, tell him how to find the maps, and then we'll go look for it. I'm like, you could
We
save so
didn't
much
hire Woody
time.
Harrelson just for us not to see him, okay?
It's just like why like just look, he's got labels everywhere. Like you just get your whole family in there looking for maps or whatever. Anyway, so they drive the RV all the way up to where the guy is, and he's like at the top of Yellowstone where old so he can look at Old Faithful, which is the volcano. And he's the guy's like broadcasting about how he's gonna watch it and blah 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 blah, and he's just broadcasting the end of the world basically. And John Cusack shows up and he's like, where are the maps? And the guys tell him where the maps are, and like the birds fly out, so it's like, oh, it's about to happen. And lo and behold, like you just like you see where Old Faithful is, which is like this kind of like small hole, and then like the ground around it like bubbles up and then just so now we get a volcano. So volcano happens, and
Your
now John
favorite.
Cusack, yeah, and then now John Cusack has to like outrun the volcano and like the pyroclastic flow, which I spent a deep dive reading about people who died from volcanoes. That was not very fun. So I'm like,
Jesus.
you gotta get out of the pyroclastic flow. You gotta get out. I don't know how they didn't get like hit by the shockwave because that itself could have killed you. Like the family's just like watching from the airport. I don't know. Whatever. It's not realistic. So Woody Harrelson gets like hit by one of the volcano like things, and then they're driving and somehow missing all the fireballs that the volcano is throwing. They get onto the plane. They like the dad almost doesn't get onto the plane, but then because he's got the maps and it looks like he falls, but then he climbs back up and he's chasing after the plane and he gets pulled onto the plane and they fly off. So it's like, okay, so now they're like, okay, we have a map. Where do we have to go? And he's like, well, we have to go to China, but before we can go to China, we need a bigger plane. So they fly to Las Vegas airport, and the sky is red here, and they go over there and we see the Russian family. They land the plane, they see the Russian family, and the Russian guy is like, no, I have plane here, we need to go, we need to fly, I have plane here, blah blah. I think the Russian guy is in Las Vegas and he wanted his kids to fly to him so that they could take off in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And he's got like a pilot, yeah. So but then the people in the airport are like, no, you can't leave, like there's so much going on right now, like the world is ending, like you're crazy to try to take off or whatever. John Cusack runs into them. I don't remember exactly how, but I remember the pilot. He's the Russian guy's pilot is like, okay, I have the plane, but like I need my co-pilot, I can't fly the plane by myself. And then they're all like, oh, Gordon can fly. And Gordon's like, okay, no, I could barely fly the last thing. You're asking me to fly like a 747? I cannot. Like, no, I'm not a co-pilot. They're like, yes, you are. You're a co-pilot. Like, just fly the damn plane so that way we can get onto the plane
Yeah,
with them.
goddammit, Gordon, play. Figure
I
it
know,
out.
I'm like, Gordon, the end of the world is happening. No one cares that you don't have qualifications. Like, anyways, so they managed to get onto the airplane, and the Russian guy's just treating him like a co-pilot, and he has to like fly this plane by himself. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but they do it. The flight controller is like, stop, but then like the pyroclastic flow from Yellowstone like pushes them out, so now they're escaping the volcano stuff from all the way from Yellowstone, because it's caught up to them, and just Las Vegas gets leveled and they're flying and they're like, okay, well, this is like a big plane and it should take us to China, but we do need to make like a stop. We need to make a stop in Hawaii. That was what they wanted to do. But Hawaii has also erupted into volcanoes and is
Of
basically not
course,
there.
Hawaii is just volcanoes.
Yeah. So they're
What were
like,
you expecting from Hawaii?
I know. So they're like, okay, we can't do that. Oh, another subplot that's been going on this entire time is the geologist's father works on a cruise ship as like a pianist, and so like earlier in the movie, like they're like boarding the cruise ship, but then like this big wave comes up, and like people are like, oh, what's going on? They're like, oh, it's okay. So he gets on, and like the father's partner, who's like a singer, kind of basically some other guy, like the singer, who's this white guy who has an estranged relationship with his son, which becomes a plot point later. They're like on this cruise ship. So, and then the son, at this point, so the president, there's just so much going on. There's always like a billion characters. President's daughter, while all this is happening, the president's daughter comes to her. She's like, Daddy, we need to talk. Like, my boss just died. Like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, all right, daughter, let me tell you what's going on. You remind me of your mother. And she's like, you always tell me that whenever I'm mad. He's like, well, it's true. And then he's like,
your mother and I had the best sex when she was mad. She's like, I'm gonna go jump off the building.
So
it's
he
basically
he basically tells her like it's like the end of the world. Like it is like I know
the end
said,
the end or the end.
It's just bad. It's just awful. So then he tells her and she's like okay, and then the geologist keeps being like, when are we gonna tell the people? When are we gonna tell the people? It's gonna be in 3 days. When are we gonna tell people? And the chief of staff keeps being like, we'll tell people when we tell people. Like I'm in charge of the logistics of making sure it happens.
He's super shady because he sold all the tickets to all the rich people. That's why he's not telling all the people. I fucking hate people. All right, continue.
Yeah, he's like, we'll tell people when we tell people. We don't want mass panic. He's like, my job is making sure we still have some form of government after all this goes over. Your job is making sure the science, that our timeline is correct, and you've already like kind of fucked up. Like, we'll tell people when we tell people. And then the president is having this moral, ethical problem and dilemma, and the geologist is like, I think you should tell people. He's like having this moment in the chapel because now they're like, okay, we have to evacuate. Like now we need to go over. So they're waiting on the president. And the president's in the chapel and the geologist goes to see him and the president's like, you know, my wife told me before she died, she said, I think it should be a lottery. I think everyone should have a fair shot at being on one of the boats. And the guy was like, well, you still have time to make things right. You can still tell them. I think the people need to know. And the president's like, I know. So he doesn't board the evacuation. His daughter is like later on the plane. She's like, Daddy, where are you? And he's like, I know you wouldn't have gotten on the plane if I wasn't there. And she's like, no. He's like, yeah, I just need to stay here. I need to do what's right. So and like the entire time this is happening, sometimes they're like, everyone leave the room. So it's only the important people. I'm like, you have like staffers here who are helping you and they don't even have tickets to like the ship. Like they don't know what's going on. They're not going onto these boats.
Are you surprised?
I'm not.
America.
It's just like, oh my God, it just sits badly with you. But anyways, so then the president with the rest of the staff that is still there, because most of them aren't being evacuated, he's like, all right, I need to make an address to the rest of the people. So he tells everybody what's going on. He's like, the world is ending. This is what's going on. Because he's like, I just want to give people a chance to say goodbye. Like a mother can comfort her child. People can say they love each other. They can like, at least families can get together and like say goodbye and I love you one last time. So it's like kind of touching. He's like, I just want people to be able to get closure so they just know what's happening. I already feel shitty about what's going on. So like, let me give them this, at least this. So he addresses the nation about like, I know a lot of shit has been going on. It's because the world is ending. He doesn't tell them about like the ships. He's just like, the world's ending. I'm sorry about like this is, and he tries to like say like a Bible verse or whatever, but then like the feed cuts because like just the volcanic ash keeps coming or whatever. So it like cuts and people start like panicking, and then you hear from the other like world leaders that the Italian president is also not going to evacuate. He's decided to like just be with his family and pray, and that's where you get the scene in the Vatican where they're all like praying at the center of the thing or whatever, and they're praying, and then there's like a crack, and it travels across the top of the Sistine Chapel, and then it goes between God's finger and Adam's finger, and then it keeps going. I'm like, oh, the symbolism. And then the Sistine Chapel kind of like caves in and it caves in, and then starts like just rolling towards people, just like because there's like an earthquake or whatever. So the plates are shifting, so it falls over and just like basically kills everybody who was there. So they're like, the Italian president is no longer with us. What happens in DC? Oh, there's like a mega tsunami. Yeah. So there's just earthquakes and mega tsunamis. Something happens. There's just like a lot of ash everywhere. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was just something. Maybe it was the volcanoes, like the cloud from Yellowstone finally came to DC and like wiped that out and like hit them or whatever. But they're like, he's like trying to help people out because there's like another earthquake or something, and then there's like ash on everybody and whatnot. There's like a scene where someone's like, oh, like I can't help you right now because the president's asking him for something because he's trying to help find someone's parent. And the guy's like, oh, I didn't realize you were the president. He's like, no, you're doing a good job. Like, you're stressed right now. Like, don't worry about it. I'm just a person at this point. All this is happening. Meanwhile, Stormy sees out where the geologist's father is. There's like, because the geologist told his father what was going on, and so the father has like always known, and he tells his dad like, I think this is it, and the guy's like, well, don't worry about me, you know, we had a good time, I'm just glad you're safe, like I'll be okay. And then the chief of staff is like, we've been wiretapping the phones, you're lucky your father knows how to keep his mouth shut, we can't let anyone know. So then he reveals that they've been silencing anyone who might try to tell people what's been going on. So the White House has been intentionally killing any potential whistleblowers. You have like this one moment where the guy is like calling his mother who has like Alzheimer's, and he tells her like, I'm going to call you next week, which is clearly like a lie because the world is going to end. So you have like some humanizing moment, but he's like, I'm not telling anybody. I know how to keep my mouth shut. We have to make sure mass panic doesn't happen. And I know you've been telling people.
You've already got mass panic because the world is falling apart.
I know. I don't even know. He's like, we've been tapping the phones. We know, like, that's how we've been able to figure out who's going to tell or whatever. So, blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God.
So they're like, they're flying over to China to get onto the boats and stuff. The monk is kind of talking to, like, his Tibetan monk person or whatever about, like, my brother said that they're making ships, and I don't know, they have like some weird conversation, and they're drinking European tea for some reason. I'm like, that tea is opaque. It should be clear. Why is there cream and sugar in the tea? The Chinese don't drink tea like that. Anyways, and the guy gives him car keys so that he can drive his grandparents to go meet his brother who has said, I'm going to smuggle you onto the boat because I work here. So that's all like happening. And so they crash land, John Cusack and stuff crash land into China because I guess they were going through a storm and something took out their engines or whatever. So they crash land, and the Russian pilot dies, and the girlfriend seems oddly emotionally distressed by it for some reason.
Interesting. I wonder why.
Interesting. So like that's happening, and then like the Chinese, I guess military police, whatever, come by and see them, and he's like, welcome to the Republic of China. Do you have your green cards? Do you have your tickets? Roland. Anyways, so he's like, do you have your tickets? And then the Russian guy's like, yes, I have tickets for 3. And so it's just him and his 2 kids. And then the girlfriend's like, why not me, Yuri? Why not me? And he's like, you think I did not know about you and the pilot? And he's like, sorry, like, thanks, but sorry, I can only pay for the 3 of us. It was $1 billion per person, and we're going, bye. So they're like, what, you're just gonna leave us here? It's like, yeah, what else am I supposed to do? So now they're walking around the Chinese wilderness.
Like your walking movement. Okay.
But then the truck with the Tibetan monk and his parents come by. And they're like, help us. So then they're like, okay, come onto the truck, we'll take you. So they drive them over to like where the thing is. They like kind of secret drive over to where the arcs are. But the other problem is there are only like 4 arcs that are ready.
Of
So they have
course.
9, but because the timeline was so much shorter, there's half of them they can't even use. So they only have like 3 or 4 arcs that they can even use. So those are the only ones that they activated the tickets for evacuating. And so they're putting people on, and like, of course, the government people are already there. But then the geologist, he like goes into the room and he's like, "This is just for me? Like, are you kidding me? You could fit 10 people in this room. Like, why aren't you boarding the people down there who like have tickets?" And then also like the chief of staff was like, "We genetically selected people who
Oh
would
my god.
eugenics.
Eugenics, I know. Like, what the hell?
They're like, we had to pick like the best government officials and the top scientists, but we also had to pick people who had really good genes that would like ensure the best success of the human race, blah 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 blah. And like they have the animals too, like the giraffes. We have to like keep these animals that we want to protect. But then the geologist like looks at like some of the people who are clearly just rich people and like rich
Yeah.
old people, and he's like, they look like they paid their way in. And the guy was like, yeah, how do you think we paid for this project? We sold tickets to like private buyers as well, so that like we could even pay for this to begin with, because it was such a ridiculously huge project. So it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's gray morality. So but then these people who have the tickets can't even like get onto the boat because there's just too much commotion, and they're getting news that like this giant tsunami is like headed their way. So they're like, we don't have time to evacuate these people, and it's just too messy and blah blah blah. And like also the guy's like, these people like worked on the boat and they don't even get to go into the boat. Like now they're having this argument on ethics and morals. Like, do we let the people on and potentially like jeopardize all of our lives because this wave is about to come, or do we not let them on and we survive, but like we just let like 100,000 people die, like thousands of people die outside? So like then he like implores the world leaders on all this that is happening. While this is happening, John Cusack's family is like sneaking onto the boat.
Mm.
And so they're like sneaking on it, everything. The blonde lady kind of sees the 2 Russian, like the Russian family, and like flips them off and is like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna live. Um, and and like people are like, also because they're at like the edge of like where the thing is, they're like falling off, they're like dying trying to get onto
Mm.
the boat because like there's no guardrail for some reason. So finally,
Guardrails would ruin the aesthetic.
honestly, finally the world leaders are like, I vote to let these people on. So they're all like, okay, well, we're gonna lower the bridge to let them on. And like the chief of staff is like, okay, like, because at this point like the president has while this is happening.
Oh, JFK already killed the president?
Yeah. So I forgot. Yeah, this big tsunami. So while this was happening, so the cruise ship, it gets capsized. Like right before it does, there's like this really kind of sad moment where like the old white guy who's like the friend, his son married a Japanese woman, and that's why they haven't like talked or whatever. So I'm like, what are you, like a World War II vet? Like, why are you racist? So
Yeah, seriously?
like, what's your problem?
The
So
Japs!
right?
The Japs ruined everything.
That is a slur. I will be bleeping it out. But
Okay, Grandpa. Sorry.
that's okay.
That was the grandpa.
That was
The
him.
guy.
So he finally musters up the courage to call them, because it's like, I'm gonna call them. I've seen the president's statement. I want to call my son before like the world ends. And like his granddaughter picks up the phone, and she's like, "Hi, who is this?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm your grandfather." And she's like, "Oh, you're my grandpa?" And she's like, "Daddy, Grandpa called. He wants to talk to you." And
It's the end of the world. I'm sorry I was a total dick to you.
we'll see, like the dad kind of like looks at like his wife, and he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to like talk to my father finally." But like right when he picks up the phone, because it's like storming outside, like suddenly the house starts shaking, and the grandpa hears on the other line like the commotion, like his granddaughter screams, and like the phone drops, and then the line cuts, so you kind of assume that like the family's now dead.
They're
So
all
it's
dead.
so it's like, oh my god. And then the boat
Maybe you
starts
shouldn't hold on to your grudges like that, you stupid piece of racist son of a
exactly.
bitch.
And then the boat starts to capsize. So now it's like they're all in the kitchen and everybody is like trying to hold on and falling off the boat. And the dad is like out there just like the boat just capsizes. And then meanwhile in Washington, D.C., after whatever happened that caused them all to like kind of pass out, they wake up, they're covered in ash. President looks up and there's like this big giant wave coming over and you hear this groaning and it's the USS JF Kennedy aircraft carrier comes over on the wave and he's just staring at it and
JFK finally gets his revenge
on a black president.
On a black president
on the White House. It just comes over and like aircraft carriers are humongous, so it just like totals the White House. It just crushes it and just the wave wipes out all of Washington DC. So they're like, yep, DC's gone, it's underwater. So now this wave is coming over towards China. And so now finally they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna open the things. Like I think the president would agree with me, the Italian president probably would agree with us too. We're going to save humanity. The guy mentions the author. He's like, there was a man that I met. I don't even know if his family's still alive anymore. But he said, like, he quotes the guy on his book or whatever. So that thing becomes relevant. So they let the people on. But
I can't wait for this book to be the best #1 New York Times bestseller on these boats.
Right.
The only book that survived.
Yeah. So at this point, it doesn't even matter who has tickets or who doesn't have tickets.
Yeah.
Everybody's going on. But because they're opening it and the family is sneaking in the gears, the welding thing actually got like the wire got like stuck at one point within the gears, and it gets like all these because they thought like, okay, the gears aren't moving, but they're where the gears are. So now things are moving and things are starting to close and almost crushing on them and everything. They're like, oh my God, what's happening? We're almost going to die. The Chinese worker, he and Gordon kind of slip and they're like falling towards like the gears. So the Chinese worker, like his legs getting like beat up by like grinded by like the gear kind of, and he gets pulled up. And then Gordon,
of course,
dies.
He doesn't survive. He's
like reach for my hand, and he's like trying to reach for the hand, but he doesn't make it, and he gets crushed to death. I'm like, this guy is the whole reason you survived Los Angeles, because he flew that goddamn plane out of LA.
But he is not the reason this family is going to become whole.
I know.
There is something between them.
It's him. It's
and
Gordon.
It's him. It's him. How dare he be successful and rich and want children?
Yeah, it was just like,
his own biological children, because he has stepchildren. But apparently that's not good enough for him.
Oh no, he loves his stepchildren. He just also wants biological children. So now it's like, fuck, this guy is dead now. So now there's no one in the way of John Cusack reuniting with his wife, which happens. So now the family is like divided, and the wave hits the boat. So now the water is going inside where they are. And the other thing too, for some reason, they designed this ship so that if the door doesn't... So they're trying to close the door again, but now the door can't close all the way because the stupid welding drill is like blocking the cogs. And because the geniuses designed this ship, they can't start the engines if the doors are not closed all the way. So they're just sitting here while this giant wave is coming at them, and they also lose the anchoring mechanism too. So now they're not even like anchored anymore. They are unanchored. They scrape against one of the other ships. The other ship's okay, but they still scrape against it, and then they just like are floating out into the sea. The wave is in here, but they're headed straight for this tall... They're like, oh, we're about to hit something at like 22,000 feet or whatever. The guy's like, what's it 22,000 feet? They're like, Mount Everest.
Oh!
Oh no. So now they're like making a beeline for Mount Everest basically, and they can't change course because they can't close the door because that family tried to sneak in, and because it's just all of a sudden, I'm like, the chief of staff is like losing his shit now. He's like, I knew this would happen. I told you this would happen. Like everything is falling. If you had let those
people on, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Literally
So
on you.
it's like all
Mark
of this
Meadows or whatever his name is.
So like now like the water is like going up, but they find they have like cameras, so they find the people, they go down there, they're trying to help them. The Russian girlfriend dies, she drowns to death random because she's like stuck in between, they can't get to her in time, I guess. So she drowns, they get the girl, they get the other people, and they're like, we need someone to remove the thing, otherwise the door can't close. So then John Cusack goes to remove the thing. He tells his son to wait there, but his son doesn't listen. The son goes over there to help him. And they're like tugging on it or whatever, and there's just like two different parts. They manage to get it free. The door closes. They put the engine in reverse. They just barely tink Mount Everest, and then it's like 0 and then -10 meters away, -20 meters away, -30. So it's like, yay, we avoided Mount Everest, we did it. So now everyone's happy. 27 days later, the waters are receding, and now someone's like, oh, we're going to go to the highest point of the world. They're saying also like, yeah, they're like the highest point of the world now is the Cape of Good Hope. It's the continent of Africa has already resurfaced. Some people say it was never underwater. And I'm like, all right, what? You could have just gone to Africa and avoided all of that? Okay, like, whatever. So now they're like, we're going to go back to Africa. You get it? Because all of humanity started from Africa, and now that the world has ended, they're all going to go back to Africa, the motherland, the starting place of the human race. We're going to go back to Africa. That's the only continent left, like, on Earth. Anyways, so, like, that's kind of, like, that's how the movie ends. Like the president's daughter gets it on with a geologist, and then John Cusack gets back with his wife.
I'm glad Chiwetel Ejiofor survived.
Yeah, so that's
and he
the
went
movie.
to Bone Town.
Yeah. Apparently there was an alternate ending, which is
everyone died.
After they say they're gonna go to the Cape of Good Hope, the geologist learns that his father and the father's friends survived the tsunami that capsized the ship.
They're already partying it up in Good Hope.
Yeah, they're on actually they're on a beach. They're like, hey. So I'm like, okay, but what about like your dead son? So yeah, and they just like talk and are boring. So that's the movie.
Just talk and are boring.
In the alternate ending, I think the way it ended was fine, but
I think they should have gone to space. Because they had no guarantee that all that stuff was just going to stop.
I think their plan was, we made a giant-ass boat that's almost indestructible, that can at least withstand tsunamis. So if we go out into the water, we'll just, like, wait it out while all this shit is happening, and be safe, and then we'll go to land when it's done. Or we could just, like, live indefinitely on this boat. Because they were worried about if we put on too many people, we'll run out of resources faster. But it's like, you have, like, wine glasses in the rooms. Like, why are you treating this like luxury cabins? Like, this should literally just be like, how can we fit as many people as possible and only have the essentials? Because, you know, so that's the movie. It's a long summary because the movie's like 2.5 hours long.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really long movie.
It's too long.
I don't know if it's 2.5, but it's like at least 2 hours.
I kind of zoned out halfway through.
Yeah, it's almost 2.5. Yeah, it's a lot. So, oh no, it is 2.5 hours, yeah. So what do you think?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the story, it's pretty, like, whatever. And I'm not gonna watch it for the effects.
That is the only reason to watch it. So yeah, if you're not gonna watch it for that, I don't think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, probably not. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. My go-to. I don't care about this movie rating.
That's still generous. Is it John Cusack?
John Cusack, Chiwetel Ejiofor are the first 2 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give this movie a 4 out of 5. because of how many times I've seen it and continue to see it, and just like
This is not a good movie, but I've seen it too many times and not rate it.
it's not a good movie.
Wow.
It's an awful, terrible movie, and I don't like it, but I also really like it. So it's just a movie. It's my disaster comfort movie. I think I like Day After Tomorrow better because it's a little more realistic, first of all. Um, and there's some of the scenes are just like so great. There are tornadoes in that movie, but it's okay. Um, but this movie is just like the Los Angeles destruction scene alone is like a 5 out of 5. It is just such. It still holds up. Like some of it, I can see the CG, but it's just so well done. I just enjoy watching it, and I like trying to figure out their route, which doesn't make any sense. I'm like, where are they driving? Like, where are they right now? I don't know how they're doing any of this, but I think I figured out their route. So, and just like the cheesiness of it, of like Air Force, like the aircraft carrier just crashing onto there. I think the Air Force One airplane also at one point like slides over. It's just like so the imagery he uses is just so cheesy, but it works, and it's just you can have any kind of time you want with that movie. You can have a fun time with that movie. Just like you know, it. I just like the movie. It's bad, but I like it. So yeah, let us know in the comments what your favorite disaster movie is, if you even like disaster movies, if you like 2012, if you agree with Monze, um, and what your favorite disaster movie is. I think I already said that. Anyways, Monze, where can they find us?
You can find us at Don't Watch Movies on Twitter. I thought I had it, but I don't think I have it. And you can find me at Magic Monster, Monzter, on Twitter as well.
And you can find me at Corinne's Korean on Twitter and Instagram. Nice. So thanks for tuning in to this very long episode. I'm so sorry. It's a long movie. But yeah, so thanks for listening and tune in
Thank
next
you.
time. Bye.
Bye.